Here is the uncomfortable truth. Your RAG system can retrieve the right evidence and still answer wrong with total confidence.
Yes, retrieval is not the finish line. The model still decides what to use, what to ignore, and what to invent around it.
That is the part teams miss. They celebrate high retrieval scores, then production answers drift away from the documents that were actually fetched.
Exactly. The real problem is not just finding evidence, it is getting the model to attend to it, trust it, and stay constrained by it when it responds.
So why does an LLM ignore retrieved evidence in the first place? If the text is in the prompt, what gives?
4 common reasons. 1. The evidence is weakly relevant. 2. The useful detail is buried in too much context. 3. The model has stronger prior patterns than the retrieved text. 4. Your instructions reward fluent answers more than grounded ones.
Give me a real system, not a lab demo.
Picture a support bot for an internal API. The retriever pulls the migration guide, an outdated quick start, and a changelog. The answer cites the old endpoint because that pattern appears more often and more clearly than the one sentence in the changelog that says it was deprecated.
So, the system looks smart, but it is basically voting by surface familiarity.
Right, and that is dangerous because users do not see the internal conflict. They just hear one crisp answer and assume the system checked the docs.
That is the power shift right there. The team thinks retrieval gave them control, but the model still has the last word.
Yes, and that means debugging has to start earlier than generation. Before you try to fix the prompt, inspect the evidence pipeline itself.
What do you inspect first?
Start with the retrieved set for failed answers, not the top score on a dashboard. Look at the actual chunks. Ask, was the answer present, explicit, recent, and easy to spot? If not, the generator is being blamed for a retrieval or chunking problem.
Chunking is one of those boring details that quietly kills trust, isn't it?
Very often. Imagine a pricing policy where the exception lives at the bottom of one page and the condition lives at the top of the next. Your system retrieves both chunks separately. The model sees fragments, not the rule. Then it fills the gap with a plausible policy that nobody approved.
And now, finance, legal, or security is on the receiving end of a made-up answer.
Exactly. Next, inspect ranking. A lot of teams stop at whether the right chunk appears anywhere in the top 10. That is too generous. If the strongest evidence is buried at rank 8, after noisy but semantically similar text, many models will anchor on the earlier chunks and barely use the later one.
So presence is not enough. Position matters.
Position, density, and contradiction all matter. If one chunk says do X and another says X changed last month, the model has to resolve a conflict. If your prompt does not force recency or source priority, it may choose the older text because it looks more complete.
That explains a lot of production weirdness. The answer is not random. It is the model taking the easiest coherent path.
Yes. Another thing to inspect before fixing anything is the prompt contract. Are you asking for a direct answer first and evidence second? If so, you are nudging the model to generate from memory and decorate afterward. Grounding works better when the task order is evidence, then synthesis.
Let me push on that with a practical example.
Say you are building a developer assistant over deployment runbooks. A user asks, "Can I rotate the key without downtime?" The retrieved docs include the exact procedure, but also a general security page saying keys should be rotated immediately. If the prompt says be helpful and concise, the model may answer yes, rotate immediately, and skip the careful two-phase process in the runbook. That is not a retrieval miss.
And the loser is the engineer who follows the shortcut and drops production traffic.
Right, which is why inspection should include answer-evidence alignment. For each bad answer, mark which sentence in the output is supported by which chunk. Unsupported sentences are where the model broke away. That gives you a map of the failure, instead of a vague feeling that the model is sloppy.
So, before any fancy fix, you check chunk quality, rank order, contradictions, recency, and sentence-level grounding.
And query formation. Sometimes the user asks one thing, but the retriever is fed a rewritten query that drops the key constraint. For example, from "Can interns access production logs during incidents?" to Access production logs. Retrieval returns access policy, not the intern exception. The model answers the broad case and misses the one word that mattered.
That is brutal because the system fails exactly where the stakes are highest: exceptions, policy edges, deprecations, migrations, and safety rules.
Yes, the winners in RAG are not the teams with the longest context windows. They're the teams that can prove why a specific answer came from specific evidence and spot when it did not.
So the goal is not just better retrieval, it is making evidence hard to ignore.
Exactly. When a RAG system starts behaving, it is usually because the evidence became clearer earlier and harder to contradict than the model's prior guess. That is the shift that turns retrieval from decoration into control.